Hey there, folks. Welcome to episode 10 of yesterday's news for the date of July 27th, 2018. Today we got a couple of totally unrelated stories. So, first thing is the EPA has reversed actions taken by Scott Pruitt on his way out that would have prevented the enforcement of an Obama-era ruling or Obama-era rule about diesel trucks. So, predictably, the mainstream media narrative is that this is all hell will break loose, and we're all going to be gagging and choking on horrible diesel fumes, and 1,600 people will die because that's. Yeah, that's an accurate number, because that's not just totally pulled out of thin air by somebody. So basically, what the rule was about was what they're calling glider trucks, which is putting a used diesel engine on a new truck, and the rule that was attempted to be repealed limits the number of these trucks that manufacturers can produce in a year. The thing is that these, like the emission standards still hold. So, yeah, they can be more polluting, but that doesn't mean they are. One of the things people don't realize is that diesel fuel is expensive, and running an inefficient truck costs you money. And so they're all about maintaining their engines and their trucks to maximize efficiency, which is what reduces your pollution. So the idea that this is going to drastically raise the amount of pollution from diesel trucks is ridiculous, and generally shows a misunderstanding of how diesel technology works. Diesel engines in general are extremely efficient and low polluting. When they get out of proper adjustment, they can produce a lot of smog and hydrocarbon emissions. But that's not something that is inherent to older engines. It's something that's inherent when something breaks. Now, an older engine will break more often and need to be fixed more often, but the issue is running the engine when it needs to be fixed, not the fact that the engine's more likely to need to be fixed. So the whole thing is really just most likely a payout to the unionized manufacturing of the new engines, would be my guess, is that they're just trying to that the Obama administration was probably trying to artificially drive up demand for new diesel engines by instituting this rule. And all that really does is cost you more money and put more money in the pockets of the automotive unions, which up until Donald Trump meant more support for Democrats. Although since Trump has kind of flipped the narrative on the whole union labor thing, maybe this will have the opposite political implications going forward. But we'll see. I'm in general not a fan of EPA regulations. I think a lot they tend to overstep their range of appropriate applicability and go into territory that they don't need to be in, and cost people money and without actually cleaning up the environment. And that's the key thing. Like, I'm all for clean air, but if you're going to make rules to try to promote clean air, make sure you make rules that actually promote clean air rather than just transfer money to your political friends. So yeah. The second story. So there were a couple of, looks like, rather young female police officers in a town called Roswell, Georgia, that were recently fired because they had been using a coin toss app to decide whether or not to arrest somebody, which is, I mean, not technically illegal, but just kind of asinine. Like, that's not cool. Because I tend to be more on the right, people kind of mistakenly assume that I'm pro-police, and I'm really not. I'm the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist side of the right that is no more a fan of the police than I am of the police and the military than I am of any other government institution. Now, I acknowledge that if there are legitimate government institutions, police and military are two of them, but that doesn't mean that I give them more than a reasonable benefit of the doubt in situations like this. And I think we have all too much of a culture of there's more to say about it, but there's a culture of capriciousness among police in this country. It's not all of them. Most police are wonderful people, but it's the job of police officer attracts three kinds of people. They're the people who really honestly care and want to help people. There's the people who were bullied in high school and want to get back at the world. And there's people who were bullies in high school and want to keep the trend going. The latter two are a minority among police, but the job does attract bullies and people who like holding things over other people's heads and making other people squirm. And this is a case of that. And it's despicable, even though not technically illegal. This can also get into questions about how much discretion the police should have when it comes to enforcing the law, and how many laws should be on the books that is reasonable to have discretion on. I think that's really more the core of the issue. Of course, you should have discretion when you're talking about silly little laws like you're not allowed to have something hanging from your rearview mirror. But I think the appropriate response, rather than try and put more layers of accountability over the police, is let's just get rid of the silly laws so there's less opportunity for them to be capricious. Because one of the things that always happens when you have a case of institutional misconduct in a bureaucratic institution, it goes on for years and years until somebody gets offended and it gets in the news, and then we got to do something about it. So what do? We put in another layer of bureaucracy to oversee the other layer of bureaucracy that was overseeing the other layer of bureaucracy that was being corrupt. And what people forget is that all of these layers of bureaucracy are just as likely to become corrupt. And rather than create a check and a balance, you're actually just creating another. You're basically just creating more jobs in the field of corruption, and that's not good. That is what Eric Weinstein, however he pronounces it, would call rent seeking. I think he seems to think that there is rent seeking in a free market. There isn't rent seeking in a free market because it gets outcompeted. There is, however, a lot of rent seeking in government, and bureaucracies are the definition of rent seeking. It's I'm forcing you to pay me money so that I can stand in your way and not accomplish anything or provide any value to you or the rest of society, which is exactly what a lot of these extra layers of bureaucracy to try and provide oversight to the other layers of bureaucracy that are being corrupt ends up being. So with that, I'm about at my limit. So hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like, share, subscribe. If not, continue to ignore me. And I will see you again tomorrow.